I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Congressman Andy Ogles. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me on.
Congressman, I know that you are a proponent of tough border security and immigration reform, so I do know that that's a focus of the conversation. This also hits home. I want to start there because after ICE arrested close to 200 people in Nashville earlier this month, you called on the House Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees to investigate Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell, who was critical of the operation. So to start off the conversation, can you talk to us about that decision?
Yeah, so I think to understand what's going on, you have to back up a step. And so ICE was operating in Nashville. They continue to do so. But that being said, apprehended a lot of individuals. And in that list of folks, you had murderers and rapists and drug traffickers and human smugglers. I mean, because, Nashville's become the jewel of the South. It is an economic engine of the South. And because of that, you have all the bad elements that come with that, the drugs, the gangs. And so it's become a destination for MS-13 and Trinidad and all the other affiliate gangs operating out of Mexico, Central and South America. And so you had ICE doing a fantastic job. Then the mayor of Nashville comes out, paints ICE and law enforcement as the bad guys. And then we find out yesterday that they literally were detailing on the city of Nashville's webpage ICE activity and the names of the officers. Obviously, I reported that to Judiciary. I went to the media. Nashville has since taken down the names of the officers. But this is how woke and radical the mayor of Nashville is that he's putting law enforcement in harm's way. He's siding with murderers and rapists instead of the people in Nashville. And it's really a crying shame that it's a member of Congress that is putting his foot down and saying, you know what, I'm committed to making Nashville safe. I'm committed to getting rid of these violent gangs out of Central South America and Mexico. Meanwhile, while Rome is burning, the emperor is fiddling, and that's the mayor of Nashville. And so I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. And so I called for an investigation of the Homeland Security and Judiciary committees. We're going to be investigating the mayor of Nashville, the city of Nashville, and making sure no federal funds went to aiding and abetting illegal immigrants and their evading of law enforcement.
I want to talk about Executive Order 30 as well as the mayor releasing those names. But first, I want to talk about that charge. You're accusing the Nashville mayor of aiding and abetting illegal immigration. What evidence do you have there aside from him after the fact being critical of the operation?
Well, so part of it is I'm not going to make an allegation. What I am going to say is based off his comments and his actions. So he's instructed law enforcement to report back to the city any interactions with federal law enforcement. He's then releasing that information to the public. So now the public can set up these groups are helping illegals evade ICE almost in real time. And then furthermore, he encouraged, there's a community oversight board over Nashville Metro Police Department. He encouraged citizens to file complaints against officers who are literally just doing their jobs. And so it's important that we hold this mayor accountable, that we put him on notice and anyone that's colluding with him. But also this is a message to the other mayors across the country in these blue cities that you can't let these illegal enterprises set up in your cities and your streets, making, quite frankly, Nashville less safe, making Memphis less safe, or Chicago, or go down the list. And so as Congress, we're going to get down to the bottom of this. I'm committed to border security and, quite frankly, securing our cities and getting in. I hate to say it this way, but it's time for mass deportations. And I think Nashville should be a shining example of getting these illegals out of our country.
Based on local reporting, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like this ICE operation that happened earlier this month has been a big divide in the Nashville community. I know the mayor, as well as one of the Metro Council members, who was a police officer for 30 years, said that the issue here is that they believe there's a lack of due process and that the people who were arrested didn't see due process. What do you make of that claim? Do you think there's a lack of due process?
Well, so you've got to understand that if someone is here illegally, depending on the circumstances, and there's a set of criteria, someone can be identified for expedited removal, and so they don't get due process. So part of it is defining due process. So they don't get due process the same way you and I might get due process because we're a U.S. citizen. And so there's obviously a process in place, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they get a judge and a jury trial. So is there due process? Of course, but it's streamlined because they're an illegal who entered this country illegally. They're in violation of our laws. They're not a citizen, so they can immediately be removed and sent back to their home country because they have no rights or really status here in this country. And so, this idea that due process isn't occurring is nonsense, especially, again, when you look at the group of individuals that ICE was targeting, murderers and rapists and people who had previous deportation orders that they ignored. I mean, this isn't a bunch of Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts that were rounded up and put in the back of a truck. These were, criminals who are members of violent gangs who are terrorizing our streets and streets across the country. Look, if you want to stand with them, so be it, but you're on the wrong side of this conversation.
And I know what you're going to say, that if you entered the country illegally here, you committed a crime. That is the crime. But does the Constitution not say that anyone that is on U.S. territory, that is on American soil, regardless of citizenship status, deserves due process?
Well, yeah, the courts have upheld expedited removal, and that is, in fact, due process.